probably the best stand-up in the racket.
He's funny. Did I say that twice? Well, good. Well, he is.
Here he is. Personal favorite of mine. This guy, among the new comedians, is young and gifted.
Very much. You look great. That's all we need, another bright new young comedian.
Good friend of mine, a wonderful comedian.
Please welcome my old buddy,
Tom Dreesen.
Tom Dreesen.
Tom Dreesen.
Tom Dreesen.
Here he is, Mr. Tom Dreesen.
Tom Dreesen.
And to this day, people say, "Who's Tom Dreesen?" It was a great start.
I really do love that video. What year was that David Letterman show where you said, "Who's Tom Dreesen"?
Gosh, I did 45 to 50 Dave Letterman show. I can't even. It probably was, but it looks the way I looked. It probably was about. Gosh, it may have been like 20 years ago.
20 years ago. And where did that? Out of my curiosity, where did the "Who's Tom Dreesen"? Where did that even come from?
I forgot I was telling some story to him, and it ended with and to this day people are saying, "Who's Tom Dreesen?"
Who's Tom Dreesen?
It might have been we might have even played that tape on Letterman. Might have. I did so many of those shows.
Yeah. Well, that's where we are today. We're on our podcast, Who's Tom Dreesen? And this is Tom Dreesen, and I got your intro in my memory now. 500 appearances on national television, 61 appearances on The Tonight Show, a favorite guest of David Letterman, even hosted the show in his absence. You worked the main showrooms in Las Vegas, and opening for acts Sammy Davis Jr., Natalie Cole, Gladys Knight and the Pips. You did corporate dates with Elton John and Bon Jovi, and I feel like I'm forgetting one.
You left out more than one.
I know, I left out more than one, but my favorite, you opened for 14 years for the late, great Frank Sinatra, correct?
Yeah, I like to think that Frank closed for me, but if you want to say that.
Who else was I missing out of those?
Smokey Robinson.
Smokey Robinson. You're good friends, Smokey Robinson.
And Mac Davis. And
Mac Davis.
And so many others. I was very fortunate in my career that back in those days, my first appearance on The Tonight Show was December 1975. Mm-hmm. In 1977, Sammy Davis took me on the road and took me to Vegas my very first time.
Sure, yeah.
And that in those days, all the hotels along the strip, on both sides, on the marquees, you would see a singer and a comedian, or a comedian and a singer, who's ever headlining.
Sure.
And all those singers wanted an act that could work clean, because their audiences were a lot of times family audiences,
Right.
So because I had done so many Tonight Shows, every time you did the Tonight Show, you had to do a new 5 minutes.
Sure.
And it couldn't be two guys going to bar jokes. It had to be original material that Johnny Carson wanted.
Right.
So you had the right material that could make grandma and grandpa, mom and dad, and the kids laugh.
Right.
So I was fortunate. These singers always wanted a comedian like that,
Yeah.
And I got a lot of work, and fortunately, all of that eventually led me to Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, and obviously, that's why we're here. You've had a fantastic and successful career, and now we're doing a little podcast that give people some laugh, wisdom, motivation, right?
I hope so. And I'd like to say, for those of you who don't know, this is my co-host, and I call him my nephew, Joe Goll, who's a fine young actor, and you'll learn more about him. He's only been out here a couple of years. He's already doing commercials. He's modeling underwear, among other things.
Everyone's got to model underwear in the beginning of their career, right? I mean,
and then pretty soon they put a shirt on you,
right? And then
a pair of pants.
You come out here naked, and then you put the clothes on.
Right. But yeah, Joey's a successful young actor on his way up. I really believe he will be a big star one day because he works hard in the business, and he stays sober, and he keeps his mind clear, and he goes to church every Sunday with his Uncle Tom.
We go Saturday nights. Saturday.
I know that, but see, we go to a Catholic church here that has services Saturday at 4:00 in the afternoon.
Right.
If you'd rather go to that than Sunday morning, and because I play golf on Sunday mornings.
Right. And I watch the Bears game Sunday morning, so
there you go.
It works like that. But yeah, I mean, I started in this industry when I was 10 years old, and yeah, we'll get into that and how you started.
Well, let me say that.
Yeah.
Let me tell him about it.
Sure, yeah.
When Joey was 10 years old, my manager is Joey's father, and Joey was doing stand-up comedy at age 10.
Yeah.
And so he opened for me at the Laugh Factory in Chicago, and this 10-year-old kid had this chutzpah to walk out on stage and do jokes, and he was funny. He was a really funny kid. after a couple of years, he decided he wanted to be more of an actor.
Yeah.
But that's how we met way back.
By the way, for everyone out there, if you hear me call him Uncle Tom, do you want to tell how I kind of started calling you Uncle Tom?
What happened is that he was a young guy, and he didn't want to call me Mr. Dreesen. I didn't want him to call me Mr. Dreesen either. But it made me feel like an old man, which I was at that time. But he so he did want to call me Tom. Yeah. So I said, say Uncle, I'm Uncle Tom. And through the years, that's been how many years now?
Over 15 years.
15 years. He calls me Uncle Tom.
Uncle Tom. Do you know who the oldest living comedian is that's still doing comedy?
Male or female?
Male.
Male. Well, I think I take that honor. But it's real close.
Tom Dreesen,
it's real close. Gary Mulder is also, we're like a month apart.
Are you really?
Yeah,
wow.
Gary Mulder, and he's a wonderful comedian.
Yeah.
I've watched Gary Mulder perform in my career. I met him 50-something years ago in Chicago doing a local TV show. Irv Kupson in Chicago, a columnist, had a TV show called Caught in the Art of Lively Conversation. And Jack Benny was on that show, and so was Gary. And I met Gary then, and we've been friends ever since.
Interesting.
And I've seen him perform, I'm not going to exaggerate, maybe 100 times in my career.
No?
I never saw him fail. He scores every time.
Yeah.
He's a brilliant stand-up comedian.
Is that like just as a comedian, and I have, believe it or not, I have bombed as a kid doing comedy, and that was always not a fear of mine, but do you think that's a fear of yours when you go on stage bombing?
I trained in bombing. So when you start out, that's what you do. It's how you recover from that.
Right.
If you really, really believe that this was your calling, and I believe it's almost like the priesthood, they say it's a calling. I believe stand-up comedy is a calling.
Yeah.
That if you have that skill, if you really believe that you have that skill, and you work hard at it, then nothing should deter you from that.
Right.
But in the early days, it's really, really hard because you go in places. In those days, there weren't any comedy clubs when I started out. There were none in America.
Right.
So if you wanted to, be a stand-up comedian, I was with a comedy team. We'll get into that in a while.
Sure,
I'm sure.
yeah.
But when we'd go into places where there'd be a bar with noisy people and if you didn't score, you thought it was your fault. You never thought that the environment was wrong, but that you were wrong.
Sure, yeah.
So as time goes by, you start to realize that, you bomb a lot.
Yeah.
But if you keep coming back, sometimes they'll ask me, will you go look at this new comedian at the Laugh Factory or the Comedy Store?
Yeah.
A friend of mine, it might be their nephew or uncle or something. And I'll go and I'll watch this person perform, this young guy or girl. And if they bomb, they're on open mic nights. And usually in the audience aren't real legitimate audience people. There are other comedians who want to get on.
Yeah.
So they won't laugh at the comedian on because they want everybody to bomb before they get on. Right. Anyhow, I would always say if the person didn't do good, they'll say, what'd you think? I say, I'll come back next Monday and look at them. If they bombed and I come back next Monday and they're back on stage, I say, they'll be all right. Yeah. Because that's the key. Yeah. Being able to suck that up and get back up there. Yeah. As years go by, what you do when you start as a new comedian, you'll go on stage, you'll bomb, and one night you did real good. And now you bomb again, and then one night you do real good. Yeah. So pretty soon you do real good, and then you bomb. Yeah. And so after a while you start getting consistent. Right. And you're an amateur unless you're paid. Once you get paid, you're considered a pro in any endeavor. But once you start getting consistent in any endeavor, in golf, in football, in any endeavor, that's when you start becoming proper for this particular endeavor. Being consistent.
Yeah, I guess there's other factors, and kind of go along with your point. As an actor, let's say you're across working with some girl that you just can't stand to work with. You almost got to. She might look like a goblin or something, and you got to have like a nice love scene with her or something, and you got to almost trick your mind. And I don't know, are some factors in stand-up comedy almost out of your hands? Are you saying?
Al Jolson was this performer who sold out on Broadway 13 straight years in a row, every single night for 13 years. And he used to say, there's no such thing as a bad audience. There's just a bad performer.
Do you believe that?
No. I think Al Jolson is full of shit. Because I met a lot of bad audiences. However, once you get to become a pro at what you're doing, you read that right from the beginning. You read the audience, and again, know your audience. Right. You read the audience. As you become a pro, there's certain lines you'll do that always get a laugh. Yeah. And if I'm out there and having a tough time some night, And there's that one gold thing that I know always gets a laugh. If I do that and that doesn't get laughed, then I say, now I know it's not me, it's you.
It's you guys, because I'm doing my thing, and it's worked every other time.
Yeah.
Did you kind of get to digress a little bit? My story. Did you always know that you wanted to do stand-up comedy?
No, I didn't. No, not at all. No, I didn't always know, but I always liked joke telling.
Sure.
When I was growing up, I grew up on the south side of Chicago, a suburb called Harvey, Illinois.
Yeah.
We lived in a shack. There were 4 boys and 4 girls. There were eight Dreesen children.
Yeah.
And it was a rat-infested, roach-infested shack. I shined shoes in taverns. I set pins in bowling alleys. I caddied in the summertime. I sold newspapers on the corner, all to help feed my brothers and sisters to bring money home. And none of this do I regret at all. But while on the taverns in my neighborhood, there were 36 taverns in Harvey. There were 8 in my neighborhood. I would go to all those bars. Harvey also was a town of steel mills, factories. They made everything from clutch plates to crankshafts. And all these steel workers would go to the bars afterward, the majority of them, and have a shot in the beer, on their way home. Speaking of shot in the beer, I just
smelled that over here. Yeah.
Maybe I need that. Anyhow, so I would go to all these bars, and I would go to my uncle's tavern last. Frank Polizzi was his name, and my mom was a bartender there. It was her brother-in-law. And I'd go there last so I could be by my mom, but also wait for the shifts to change, and I'd go back around the bars again. While I'm in the bars, Frank Polizzi told jokes behind the bar. And he was very funny. He could do dialects, he could do accents and something. Sure. And he was funny. And it fascinated me that with his vocabulary and his vernacular, that and his timing, that he could cause this sound to come out of everybody's body. Yeah. This laughter sound, and fill the room like electricity and unite everybody. Yeah. All of a sudden, everybody was listening. And I found that fascinating. And I used to tell some of his jokes, many that should not be told on a Catholic school playground.
Sure, yeah.
I'm a little boy, I didn't know any better.
Yeah, how old were you at the time?
10.
You were 10 years old?
10 years old when I started shining shoes, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but, so, I mean, again, and so I was fascinated by, I like making people laugh, and I like hearing laughter, but I never thought I'd ever be a comedian. That was the furthest thing from my mind. Right. And you know, when from there, growing up, we were raggedy poor. I ended up dropping out of school when I was 16 years old because I was going to school every day with holes in my shoes. And you know how kids in high school, they dress to their nines.
Sure,
and, they try to, you know. Yeah. And so I finally dropped out of school, and I set pins in the bowling alleys. And I was running with a real rough crowd. Ironically, a group of tough young guys. We wore leather jackets, and one of the guys was a real good artist, and he painted the Joker from Batman and Robin. Yeah. He painted the Joker on the back of our jackets. We were called the Jokers.
Oh, you guys were badass.
Ironically. but they were pretty tough boys that I grew up with. I mean, we got in a lot of fights, and nothing I'm proud of or anything like that. But
sure, yeah.
At age 17, I go in the Navy. You know, I got a high school diploma from the Navy, and I went to junior college nights when I came out studying political science, still never thinking at all that I would be a comedian. That was the furthest thing from mine. I got married, one kid, then another kid, and I got 3 kids. Yeah. And I'm working construction in the wintertime and bartending, and I mean in the summertime, construction, in the wintertime, bartending. Then I got another job working for the city. I was cleaning sewers. You know, I went from job to job. I became a teamster. I loaded trucks, and I became a teamster. And then 6 months later, the terminal manager told me, "Drop your card and become management with us. You know, you don't need to be loading trucks all your life." He thought I was a pretty bright guy, and I appreciate that. But and so I did that. Now I had 48 teamster guys working for me. I'm the foreman. That was a real awakening for me. When I was in the military, I was a petty officer, so I had men underneath me, and I knew how to be a leader of sort. Yeah. But now, leading teamsters to work every day, of the 48 guys, 24 came to work hard and do a good day's work. The other 24 did everything they could to get out of working. Right. And, you know, I'm chasing guys out of bathrooms and stuff like that. So that was a real challenge to me. But every job I had, I would do good at it, and then I would be dissatisfied. And I was a photographer. I was a private detective. Yeah. You know, for Police Detective Agency. Yeah. But anyhow, I finally, you know, I joined a civic group called the JCs, the Junior Chamber of Commerce. They were young men of action. In those days, they were ages 18 to 36, only men. Today, the JCs have women in. But
it's still around.
There's still JCs and chapters, but not as prominent as they used to be. They used to really be big in all the communities in America. Yeah. JCs were great for leadership training program. Any problems in the community, you would form together. They would get together, some of the other JCs. You would learn how to serve on a committee, how to chair a committee, how to attack the problem of the community. And by doing this, gave you great leadership training.
Man, that'd be great if they could bring that back around.
Well, it's still out there, but I don't think there's any JCs even in LA here.
No.
But then also what they would do is, they taught you how to get in front of an audience. How to, public speaking.
Sure.
All these things. One day I wrote a drug education program teaching grade school children the ills of drug abuse with humor. It's a concept I had. All the children, the drugs were the problem of the community as they are today. And 8th graders, before they went into high school, I wanted to teach them about the drugs that were current in our area.
Yeah.
And in those days, they weren't teaching drug education at a college level or high school level, let alone at elementary school level. Joining me on the program, let me digress. I'm praying at this time, Joey. I was so wandering aimlessly. I'd be in a bar at 2 o'clock in the morning with my buddies saying, I don't belong here. I don't belong here. But I didn't know where I belonged. Yeah. I started praying. I said, God, what is it you want me to do? This can't be it. I just started praying. And I joined the JCs. I write this drug education program. A white guy, a friend of mine, John DeBoer, said, Tom, I'll work with you on that project. I said, oh, great. The night I proposed it to the JCs that they would sanction it to the general membership was a new member. He graduated from Norfolk State College, historical black college. E.I. DuPont recruited him into Chicago as a marketing rep. And he comes up to me after it. He said, hi, my name is Tim Reed. I'd like to work with you on that project. I said, gee, I already got a guy, but thank you. Yeah. Again, I'm praying. The next day, John DeBoer calls me and said, Tom, I got a new job. I can't help you. Yeah. I said, gee, what was that black guy's name? Oh, yeah, Tim Reed. Wow. So Tim and I get together. We work on the program together and formulate it. We go into the classrooms at school. The program was an instant success. Sure. The children were black and white. The moment I walked in the classroom with Tim, I realized what a God blessing this is. Yeah. Because, the children reacted to us right away. Right. They took to us right away. And we made each other laugh. We played records and stuff like that. We played off of one another. Yeah. And the program became, the JCs use it as a model program in their publications in 50 states and in 22 foreign countries on how to teach drug education at an elementary school level. Yeah. And one day a little 8th grade girl walking out of the classroom said, you guys are funny. You ought to become a comedy team. No shit. And the thought of a black-white comedy team intrigued us because no one had ever done that before. Right. In September 1969, we went on stage in America as America's first black and white comedy team. And history shows we're the last. Wow. There's never been one since we did it. Wow. Tim Reed went on. The team stayed together 6 years. Right. The team split up. Much to my dismay, I did not want the team to split up. Sure. But Tim went on to become Venus Flytrap on WKRP Cincinnati. He was on a show called Sister, Sister. He played the father. On a show called Simon and Simon. He played Downtown Brown. He did maybe 8 sitcoms. He wrote a sitcom called Frank's Place that was an incredible sitcom. Right. And today he's a director. Sure. And still acts. Yeah. And we're the best of friends. I love him like a brother. Yeah, he's your buddy, yeah. Oh, he's everything I have, everything I own, everything I become, because I met Tim Reed. Yeah. And he'll say the same thing about me. His children call me Uncle Tom. Yeah. Like you do, Yeah. But, can you imagine if that guy never came to you and said he was going to work with, if he did work with you still? Can you imagine? If John DeBoer, yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't be here today. You wouldn't be here today. Again, I believe prayers are answered. Sure. Oh my gosh, absolutely. I mean, I really believe that I just felt there was something more I was supposed to be doing. Now today, I'm a stand-up comedian for 56 years. You mentioned all my credits, but nothing makes me happier. 2 things. I mean, my children, my family, we can do all that, and all that's true. But what really makes me feel whole as a man is when I'm doing stand-up comedy and getting laughs with stuff I wrote. Great. And the second thing is, I give motivation talks on 4 subjects: perception, visualization, self-talk, and develop a sense of humor. Right. And I elaborate on those 4 points. Right. And that nothing pleases me more than to motivate people to want to be all they can be, because that happened to me through prayers. Yeah. And I talk about that too. But through motivation, I've read literally hundreds of books on the powers of the mind. And I talk about the books I've read and what they've taught me. Yeah. And I, every now and then somebody will come up to me and say, you said something that changed my life. That's got to make you feel. Oh yeah, I really feel like that's what I came here for, to make people laugh. Laughter is healing. Yeah. We can go into that some other time. Yeah. But it's not a theory anymore. No, right. It's a fact laughter is healing.
Right.
You know, laughter is psychologically a deterrent because the audience, if they're laughing at you, they're not thinking their problems.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a deterrent. But also because of a man named Norman Cousins, who wrote a book later called The Anatomy of an Illness, and he was doctors. He went to the doctors. He was very ill. They said, "You got a heart ailment. You don't have long to live." Through the years of stress in your life, this heart ailment. He laid in bed in the hospital. He thought, if negative input, stress made me ill, then positive input should make me well. He checked out of the hospital. He'd only watch I Love Lucy reruns, Candid Camera, Three Stooges, Marx Brothers.
Which are all comedies.
All comedies.
All comedies, right?
He would listen to comedy albums. He wouldn't watch the evening news. He wouldn't read the papers. He lived 27 years after the doctors told him he was going to die.
Jeez.
Because of him, UCLA did research on what happens to the human body when you have a hearty laugh, when you laugh so hard and tears are coming down your eyes. Oh, that sense of well-being, that sense of well-being that comes over you is because your body's gone through an actual chemical change. Endorphins are released from the brain into the bloodstream. So laughter is not only psychologically a deterrent, it's physiologically therapeutic. So comedians are physicians of the soul, but you don't have to call me Dr. Dreesen.
Dr. Dreesen right here. So, yeah, so it's kind of to get back. So yeah, you didn't know, it took you a while just to, you know, even, first of all, think about becoming a comedian, let alone being one ever. And I think that's how a lot of, you know, me, I didn't just like perform for you and then move out to LA and the rest was history. I think it took a while to like develop, you know, to get into like the acting and my love for it and whatnot. And I think that's a lot of people too.
Well, you had an epiphany, and we talked about this before. I've always said to comedians, if you can't write jokes, if you're not good at writing material, then you're going to have to get some money to buy material, and find somebody that likes to write material that fits in your mouth.
Right.
Excuse me. But I got to quit going to the bar for them shots in the beers. I haven't had to drink in I don't know how many years.
Yeah.
But anyhow, but you decided at an early age, you told me that I'm not good at writing jokes.
Right.
And so therefore you ended up in the acting.
Yeah, for sure. And I was going to say, I wasn't good at writing jokes. However, and I'm discovering this, and I took classes when I was a kid, I am very good at improv. I can work off, if you give me, and you know, my dad and I, we were just talking about this, how big is improv within, you know, a TV show, a movie, commercial, whatever. And I personally, now that I've worked, thankfully, a good amount, I think it's huge. I mean, I think it's, the script is just there for a block, an idea of like, all right, this is where we want to go. But improv is such a big factor in shows and movies, and I think people would be surprised how much is improv within shows and movies.
If the director allows this, if
correct,
if they allow this, I studied acting in Chicago and I studied acting out here in LA, and I've done films. You know, I've done a lot of sitcoms and films, and but it's really, really good for a stand-up comedian to take improv classes, because sometimes you get people holler stuff out from the audience, and they're not always hecklers.
Right.
Sometimes they're just nice, fun people who holler something out.
Yeah.
And you can roll with that. You
right.
know?
Right.
You know, so but it depends again on the director, and if they want you to add that within the confines of it.
Yeah, and it took a while, because when I had that epiphany that I wasn't the best joke writer, I said, you know, and thankfully Shirley Hamilton picked me up, and I was booking these commercials and whatnot. And that epiphany, I think, came from me. To digress again, I was a sports guy all my life. I was going to go play college baseball on the East Coast, you know. But then when I kind of made the decision to move out here, that just like high of being on set and just being around the people and the hustle of everything, I like you say, I was like, whoa, I'm never gonna get this with anything else, you know. And you almost come, it almost becomes addicting, you know. And I know we'll talk about this, but that work-life balance just flies out the window, and this is like the only thing you want to do. And like when you know were with Tim, was this the only thing that you wanted to do?
Oh, I knew.
Was it just like a burning thing?
The first time we went on stage, something I had written got a laugh, and it was boom.
Yeah.
I like, oh my God, like it was something like one of the old B movies where the dark clouds open up and the sun bursts through. Yeah. My whole being went, yes.
That's it.
Oh yes, this is what I want to do. I want to be a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
I couldn't sleep that night. It was a Friday night.
Yeah.
I was married, had kids.
Yeah.
I couldn't sleep that whole Friday night. I got up on Saturday morning. I walked down to the church where I had been an altar boy, where I went to Ascension School in Harvey, and where I sang in the choir, and my mom sang in the choir when she was a little girl.
Yeah.
And the church was empty. It was a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
I got on my knees and I prayed. I said, God, now I know what I want. I want to be a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
If you let me make my living as a stand-up comedian, I'll never ask for anything else. Now, I didn't say, if you let me become a star, if you let me have my own,
Right.
if I'm a movie star, none of those things at all.
Right.
The thought that you could make a living making people laugh, just if it made rent money.
Right.
If you just pay your bills with it,
Right.
that's what I wanted to do. I knew that's what I was put here for. You know,
Right.
And it took a long time.
Yeah.
But God answered all my prayers.
Right.
That was September 1969. September 2019, 50 years later, I went back to that church
Yeah.
and I gave the sermon on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And I told the congregation, right here is where I knelt. Everything that I have today, everything I became, is what I prayed for right here.
Right.
That prayers are answered. And I said to the audience, I'm going to ask you, how many of you out there ever were thinking about somebody you haven't seen for a long time?
Right.
And the phone rings,
Yeah.
and it's that person.
Yeah.
And you go, you won't believe this. I was just thinking about you. Or you're walking down the street, you'd been thinking about somebody, you turn a corner, and you bump into that person.
All the time.
It happened. You say,
All the time.
and they say, I was thinking about you too.
Yeah.
And I said, raise your hand. And the entire congregation raised their hand.
Yeah.
I said, if human beings can transfer thought, and obviously we can,
Right.
then how much can the supreme being
Right.
transfer thought?
Unbelievable.
To me, that simplifies what a prayer is all about.
Absolutely.
For people who don't believe in prayer, I do.
Yeah. Oh,
I
my
believe
gosh.
in the power of prayer.
Oh, my
And
gosh.
I'll gladly testify to that anytime.
Absolutely. And I think, and I am a strong believer in it, just like you said, everything happens for a reason, right? And
Okay.
for people out there who are listening that I can't tell you, my aunt is a counselor at a college, and she has people who are older, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, who are still saying that they don't know what they want to do. And I say to that, everything happens for a reason. Take it from Tom right here. I mean, you worked every job imaginable from when till you were what, 28
years old.
28 years old, and then you found out what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Some people know when they're
Some
growing-
people know, exactly. Some people know when they're 12 years old, like, I'm going to be a fireman, and that's exactly what they want to do. Some people find out at 28 years old, you know?
So I read somewhere where, I forgot what it was, 2% of the people in the world make a living at what they love to do. That if you found a job, what's the oldest cliche? If you find the work that you love, then you never work a day in your life.
It's not a work.
It's because you're going to. And
Yeah.
I can hardly wait to get on stage and make people laugh.
Oh, man, that's me, too. I cannot wait to just get on set, and I think it almost makes me, in the back of my mind, it makes me work even harder and hustle even more because I get the opportunity to do this. I look back sometimes, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing, you know?
Yeah.
But it's really cool.
Well, you want to pinch yourself. You know?
Yeah.
By the way, there are no mistakes. No mistakes whatsoever. Everything that you think is a mistake is something you learn from, and it puts you in another direction. It's
Right.
going to take you to where you want to be.
Yeah.
I know rejections in my life that when they happen, I thought this is the end.
Yeah.
And a year later, I realized that rejection hadn't happened. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be here.
Right.
So once you start believing in that,
Yeah.
really fully believing in that,
Yeah.
and again, I talk about that in the motivation talks, and
Sure.
we'll talk about it later,
Yeah.
at later times, about how whatever the mind can see and believe, it will achieve.
Right.
I explain to them, as you've heard me do many times,
Right.
how that works
Right.
and why it works.
Right. And I truly believe rejection is, I remember we were doing that old nursing home for your buddy, what's his name? The Jewish nursing home again.
Oh, Ron Greenberg.
Ron Greenberg, and I had this lineup, and I tell this story all the time. I had this lineup of like callbacks and holds for like a show, a commercial, blah, 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 and I didn't get one of them. I wanted to rob a bank and jump off a cliff, you know? And you said, oh, how many did you get? And I was like, it was like 5 rejections. You said, 5? I've gotten hundreds in my life, you know? And I think that was a growing moment for me because now I, for lack of a better term, take it to the chin, and just say, there'll be another one there.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
There'll be a bigger one for me, you know?
And sometimes, you hear movie stars talk about it. Sometimes they'll say,
Yeah.
I was up for this role,
Yeah.
and I didn't get it, and it broke my heart. But I got to set a little small role in something,
Right.
and lo and behold, this movie was a failure, but what he did or she did
Right.
became a big. So believe in that there is a master plan for everybody. If you really
Right.
believe that and follow that, then everything that happens in your life is part of that plan. you
Right,
know?
right. No, it's great. And we got a ton of stuff to talk about. Motivation, laughter, wisdom. To wrap it up, do you want to talk about anything?
Yeah,
think we did.
I always like. I'm going to end all of our podcasts with something to hopefully motivate you, make you laugh, or motivate you, And so I want to talk about. I talked about perception. One of the things I talk about in my motivation talks, that all of life is about perception. It's how you perceive it. I told the truth here. There were 8 of us children. We lived in a shack. There were 4 boys and 4 girls. That's true. We had no bathtub, no shower, no hot water. A rat-infested, roach-infested shack. Holes in my shoes, you put a cardboard in it. If a window broke, you stuck a rag in it. I had no boots in the wintertime like other kids had. I never had the warm clothes that other kids had. So grew up poor. And shining shoes in taverns, setting pins in bowling alleys, caddying, selling newspapers, all to feed my brothers and sisters. And I tell you here today, that's the greatest thing that ever happened to me. That is truly the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Because I perceive that. I perceive that, it doesn't matter where you've been. It matters where you're going. I believe that life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. I'll give you an example. A little boy goes in the backyard and he's got a bat and a ball. And he says, I'm the greatest hitter in the world. And he throws the ball up in the air and he swings and he misses. He said, I am the greatest hitter in the world. He throws the ball up the second time and he swings and he misses. He said, I am the greatest hitter in the world. And he throws it up the third time and he swings and he misses. He said, I'm the greatest pitcher in the world. Nothing changed but his perception. And that's what life is all about. And I'm going to give you more in our next podcast, more about this perception thing. I'll close with something that really will be revealing to you. You'll be surprised.
Cool. Well, make sure to follow us. Who's Tom Dreesen? Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. We're on Spotify podcasts. We're on Apple Podcasts, and pretty much anywhere else you could find us here. So let's wrap it up, Tom.
Okay. That was fun.